I got a new one out called Missing Puzzle Pieces, and it's a journal. So whatever you're going through, is what are the missing pieces of the puzzle that you're going through in your life, whether it's you and the spouse having issues, you and the family member, you and the friend been friends for like this. So it's a journal of the stages that you go through when you're going through something in your life.
Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Good stuff, right? Good stuff. I'm so glad you got to read it because it kind of put me in a different place.
Yeah.
A different headspace.
I just think that those are great poems because they do speak to what I'm hearing as being.
You heard that PUSSY.
But the thing about the PUSSY, it don't control me. I control it.
I mean, that's good. That's what's
but what I'm saying is, no, I thought it was good because it's a perspective that fits into the puzzle of what we call the trichotomy of existence of a human being, spirit, soul, body.
Okay, so let's move on to this. Let's talk about the art of making love, erotica art versus porn. And Melvina, Melvina, again, we go back to the stereotypes where it's like men feel like we're just so boring sometimes and we don't have sex on the brain as much as they do. That's so far from the truth. So far from the truth. So Melvina wrote these books and I bought it years ago and I cannot read it. Look, not yet.
Melvina.
I don't know why she won't just go ahead on and read that first book, go on and get it over with. It's a fast read, Char.
It started, but I'm like, I know me. Anita would appreciate it. Look, but
you're right, Sandy. Sandy just said it created sex. There's nothing shameful about it.
That's right.
Books like that.
I love it. I love it.
I don't blush.
Again, I want to. Well, it's not
hard
even
to make me blush.
But it's not even about blushing. It's just like that gets you, all. And I'm just mentally not there.
Gotcha.
I don't know. Gotcha. Pray for me.
Let me say one thing. So when I was a freshman in high school, so I was 14, I started messing around with this girl and it became sexual very quickly. What I found out later was the reason that she was so sexual is because she had some abuse.
Makes sense.
She came from a very religious background, like one of those, very holiness type thing, but there was so much incest and adultery and the environment she and I didn't, I'm 14, I don't know this.
Yeah.
Until she explained it. And I mean, years later, I ran into her years later. And we were like, I was 20 when she, let me know, these things have been happening and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's also a contributing factor to why a lot of people have weird feelings about sex, particularly women, because I hate to say it, I know so many women who have been molested.
Yes.
I have two daughters. I'm deaf on, like, stay away, I'd be doing this Zoom from jail.
Come on. Come on. Yes.
But that's a story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So many women I've met where that's their story. They were molested.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And it's terrible.
I was abused, and that got me, like, I didn't know my body was reacting a time sooner than it should, and I didn't know what to do with all that.
But you're talking about women, but that's also the case for men.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And I think what I know, my love, we had that conversation, and a lot of times, even with my ex, we talked and we realized, my issues of my sex, it didn't happen in my childhood. Unfortunately, an incident that happened with me happened in my adulthood. You come together and you're like, whoa, why are we having these trauma? Why are we having these issues?
Yes.
And your traumas are clashing. Traumas are clashing. And your unhealed places they're not matching, and those parts of yourselves that are not matching within your sexual identities, within your sexual unhealed places, harmed places. And that's where the therapy works. And as in particular, because I see we're majority of us, we're people of color in this line, we really need to put air to it.
Yes.
What I mean by that, we gotta
Okay.
we have to talk about it. That doesn't mean, because Black folks, we are so quick to say we can't talk about it because we're still on Master's plantation. We are no longer
okay.
Plantation. We can talk about it. There are
we can talk about it
that won't tell our business. We can tell our therapist what our uncle or our auntie or our cousins did.
Yeah.
They are paid to not tell anyone. And we can put air to it and talk about it because we got to talk about what's laying dormant in us.
Oh, the pink elephant in the room. And it's so funny you're saying this because I wrote this today and I was like, no, I wanted to stay happy. I wanted to stay light. But you all are taking this to another place because it makes so much sense. I said it's crazy because all of my Caucasian friends, I reached out trying to get whoever I could on this panel to keep it diverse, to keep the diversity, going. And it just ended up like for a whole week. Anita, I reached out to you.
Sure.
Do you know a white man? You know a white woman? Yeah. I mean, and not being rude, but
no, I said you reached out to me like, do you know any white guys?
Yes, because I'm serious about diversity, bridging the divide. But I kind of feel like it's a divine moment tonight because it's all people of color right now. And we're having this conversation. And I wrote this down. I'm just going to read it. And I said, I think it's ironic that the panel is all African-Americans for this episode, no matter how hard I tried to have a diverse group. I think this is a special moment for us. With the injustices that our ancestors had endured, families were ripped apart, treated like animals. Breeding camps were designed to where our women were violated, raped, assaulted. Sex wasn't for pleasure, but for breeding. Our men were forced to be breeders. So don't you think that all of that still affects us to this day because there's that pink elephant in the room where we're not talking about it.
Oh my goodness.
We're not talking about listen,
absolutely.
My ex and I, we, again, in church, we hear a lot of these things. We have so many stories. One preacher, he was so sexually frustrated. He's standing up behind the pulpit and he's preaching hard. And he was talking about something about relationships. I take it he was, speaking of his own. And all he could say was about his wife. But he didn't say he wasn't pointing at his wife, but he was like, don't just lay there. Sexual frustration.
Yeah.
Sexual frustration.
Yeah.
And it comes out at the odd times. So it's like, at what point do we deal with it? At what point do we talk about it? And what do we talk about? I mean, like, who is it? Malcolm X.
The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. We will kill you for our woman. We believe that if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts his filthy hands out to put in the direction of our women.
Most least protected people on the planet, pretty much, especially in this country. Right. And that's
we got a lot. I'm not prejudiced. I love my black men. I love my black men. I love my black men. I honor them, and especially in honor of our ancestors and what they had to go through. It's like, I want them to know how valuable they are, how they're kings. I look up to them.
They know that.
But it's like they do.
But
they
we protect
their
them.
work.
Sorry, Will. We protect y'all.
We love y'all, John.
We still got uncles out there still touching girls. We still got Uncle Bobo still out there touching boys. We still got this. We still protecting them. We protect them.
We do.
Protect them.
We do.
So let me just real quick. The whole idea of epigenetics is the whole idea of genetic trauma that relies in our DNA. If you even look at the childbirth of Black women in this country, birthing children in this country is like a death sentence for Black women.
Yeah.
I died almost 2 times birthing my last daughter. Almost died the first time birthing my first daughter. It's like a death sentence in this country as Black women. And that's across the board. It doesn't matter how educated you are, how healthy you are. It doesn't matter. If you're a Black woman in this country and you're bearing children, the likelihood of you dying is like almost, it's over double any other race in this country. Why is that? Doesn't matter how, you could have degrees, you can be rich, it doesn't matter. The only thing they can think of is the epigenetics of it all, is the trauma.
Yes.
Of sex,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
We're talking about our sex organs, and we go back to you talk about the energy spots in our bodies, right? That's all I'm gonna say. And we can talk more about that. I'm getting chills about it because I know that's
me too.
We have a lot of work to do, you know, as a
listen.
Healing starts. It starts now by talking about
it. It starts. That's why that's why these conversations are so important to me. Like things happen, traumas happen, and people move on. I already shared with you all, like my mom, I love her so much. I love her so much. And I watched how her body was violated time and time again with every birth, with every pregnancy. It wasn't a love thing. It was a trauma. And I watched her, so she held on to her children. And she, in her own way, she made sacrifices for us. I can never overlook that. But, you know, some traumas were greater than others to where she could not embrace, you know, the child, which that was me, you know, she could, but listen, so in school at Columbia last year, I took a class. I'm about to cry. I'm gonna calm down. Hold on. Whew, hold on. I said this to my mom after hearing this class. I said, one of my classes, we are studying the history of slavery and its impact on the African-American community. Listening to a podcast, and they quoted the definition by behavior research scientist Jasmine Abrams. The strong Black woman syndrome is a provider and caretaker who is resistant to vulnerability or dependency, displays strength, suppressed emotion, succeeds despite inadequate resources, and assumes responsibility as a community agent.
Right.
So she is willing to overlook her own hurts, her own traumas, and just move on. But it's time. And that's why I tried to get my mom to talk. That's why I sent her this. I want her to know I honor you so much. I honor you so much that you picked yourself up by your bootstraps no matter what. And you could never tell that my mom was like going through, because she put herself together, you know, but she's living with that. She's not free.
Right. So it's a generation like that, you know, I remember I was talking to a therapist once, and we were talking about my parents and my relationship with my parents. And she was trying to pull me in a direction. She couldn't understand why I was giving my parents grace about not completely catering to my emotional needs at all times. And I told her, my father was born in 1914 in Mississippi. That's hard. That you can stop right there.
Stop right there. Yeah.
They moved to West Memphis, Arkansas. He had a job when he was 8 years old. You know, you can't. So he was 54 when I was born. He's 55, and you can't expect him, somebody born in the teens in that situation, to have this 21st century emotional mindset toward his child, because his whole thing was, I'm just trying to protect you. I'm trying to raise you. My mother was more emotional, but same. I'm just trying to get you there. And like Anita said, it's the trauma bonds. A lot of people, yeah, we can have sex really good together, but we can't talk to each other. We have problems. We can't have a relationship. Now we can have sex all the time. Right. Yeah. We can get down all the time. But I don't want to talk to you because I got problems too. Not me, but I'm speaking hypothetically.
Yeah, I know.
I've had women tell me, I don't want to know about your problems. I just want that thing.
I think, CHAR, that's a great point when you talk about historic, the generational cycles that slavery perpetuated and how it affects relationships. That's a great point. My grandmother raised, on the paternal side, 12 children, and there was no guidance. The father in and out, the father abusing the kids. I understand the kids abusing one another through the lack of guidance from a mom and dad. My grandmother's always working. So certainly generationally, and let's just face it, we are the creme de la creme, brothers. I have no problem. I have nothing against my white brothers and sisters. I love you. I got a little Irish and a little Scottish or whatever else they put in there. But the African, they say that every color is found in black, every color. You're not even into money unless you're into black. Let me say this. Every DNA they researched is found in African DNA. Every DNA on the planet is only found in African DNA. Has anybody else seen this? But anyway, that being said, it is very well worth discussing, researching, and talking about this, because I think a lot of men and women in the African American community need a very good education of how history, great grandparents of this land, and was immediately separated and put into another place, and you never saw them again. And that cycle just went on and on and on. And as you said, CHAR, using men. And that's why I have a problem with The Bodyguard. Wouldn't Dwayne Johnson have done a better job with Whitney? Come on, bruh. Anyway, let me leave it. Let me leave it at that.
But you know the industry. That's what they do. They want to keep belittling our men, keep tearing us down. It's so funny that even came up because I had it written and I was like, I don't want to be dark today. I want to be light, but this is light. We're shedding light on a very, on that elephant in the room. I want to read Amber's. She says, I guess she was referring to, she says, that's an important topic. We protect everyone. Superhuman, I guess, the mothers or women.
Black women. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Excuse me, CHAR.
Yes.
Can I just speak to something you were talking about along with Will and Anita? When you talk about, and I think Sandy even chimed in on, like you just said, superhuman coping mechanisms, the fact that we have to be strong and we resist being vulnerable. Not that we can't be vulnerable, but we are so determined to be stronger than everybody else. But can you imagine, that's just not one of us or two of us, that's our community.
Yes.
That's our culture. And so when you pair that burden of having to be strong and pair that with not wanting to be vulnerable, and add to that watching the news every day and seeing our people killing each other.
Yes.
Add to that, like Will was talking about, people that are having sex, but they can't even have a conversation. It just lends to the fact that we are broken as a culture.
Broken. Yes.
And so how, that's a tangled web.
Yeah. But that is
right?
That's a huge generalization, though, because there are people who are having conversations. And I know that is a generalization. But there are people who are having conversations, and there are people who are able to have intimate relationships. And
what I am acknowledging is the fact that we have so much work to do as a culture, and we are disconnected.
Yes.
You see other cultures that band together and do what they need to do. Other cultures that wouldn't dare go outside of their culture for something else, something that they needed. We are going through this as a culture, and we are disconnected. And Anita even referenced, childbearing. I had the same experience that you did with both of my children. And it's not just because it's, what did you say, epigenetic? It's not just
epigenetics. Yeah, look that up.
It's not just epigenetics. It is the fact that we're strong, we can do this, and then we go in and we have our doctors who think, oh, they're strong, they can do that, right? And
There you go.
right?
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So there's so much more to this conversation, and I couldn't let you go on, Char, without just mentioning that, and the fact that Will spoke about therapy and the fact that this has been sort of a bad thing. You know, the label is it makes you less than if you have, again, that's that resistance to vulnerability, right? So that's a problem in and of itself, that most people don't embrace therapy if they need help with something, right? Or sometimes even if you don't need help, so that they can stay on the right track. So just had to throw that out there. Char, hats off to you for doing this show, to at least, this is in essence therapy. In a way.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just didn't get that out. I'm sorry.
Not particularly.
So, but Lynn, in defense to our people, we are very peculiar people.
Yes, we are.
In the very the ideas of, sometimes it kind of bears very heavy on me when I hear, well, other people do this, they get together and they do this. But what we have, the strategic attack that we've had to deal with as a people I feel has been very peculiar. How we have been attacked aesthetically, as far as this beauty standards that we have to deal with as Black women. How we have to deal with medically, every system that you think of.
Every system.
Financially, medically, every system that you can think of we have been undermined, like every system. So of course we have so much work to do.
So much.
But I'm so hopeful. I really do believe that we're heading towards a tipping point.
Yes.
And there's a Lynn that's saying, hey, and there's a Will that's saying, hey, brother Jonathan, we need therapy. We got a Black man telling another Black man,
yeah,
hey, there's therapy for us to help us not get stuck. And there's an Ezra who's talking about these conversations, and so I'm hopeful that there's a tipping point that's happening in our community where we're able to say, hey, y'all, we can get therapy. And, hey, we can really look at these systems that are harming us and really look at the anti-Black systems that are harming us and look at them differently and say, look, this can't continue to happen.
That's right. We refuse.
Continue to happen by embedding them, and getting into these systems and creating them.
Or instead of trying to turn around that ship, instead creating our own systems so that
there you go.
So that we can be partial to our needs, right?
Absolutely.
That's right. That's right.
A lifetime of industries to turn around and look at us differently. That's just, I am not hopeful about that, but I am hopeful that we can begin to build our own industry and kind of take it from there, because we can take care of ourselves, really.
Yes.
You're right.
I mean, look at Black Wall Street. Our people came from nothing and rebuilt, and they were still jealous of us. And
that's
an
the
erotic
truth,
and look,
but there's been communities like that over and over again in our country, and that's happened. That's happened a lot of times.
Too much, and we got it. It's like enough is enough.
Ida B. Wells has always said, whenever there is a person, a man, woman, or child that's been lynched, it was always because of monetary rage. They were afraid of the financial gains of a Black man.
We're such a threat. Wow.
Such a threat,
So. Amber said, I'd like to add that medical professionals have admitted to believing and being taught that Black people, especially children, require less anesthesia for surgery, but many Black children actually need more anesthesia than the average child, because early exposure to physical violence changes the brain chemistry and makes us more sensitive to pain, even into adulthood. And so many people have adverse childhood experiences. Sandy says, African Americans are my heroes. Yes. Amber again says, African women were whipped while, y'all taking me somewhere. They were whipped while pregnant because slave masters wanted Black children to fear them even before they were born. In my class, that was another thing they talked about, where I need to get the actual names, because I cried through that whole class. I was constantly wiping my face, where the anesthesia, the doctors would perform vaginal
the
surgeries.
guy who is I forget his name, the doctor who is allegedly the father of gynecology.
Yes.
Conducted all of his experiments on African American women without anesthesia because he didn't believe that we felt pain the same way. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there was a survey of medical students, and this is like recent. This is a few years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, where medical students that they surveyed felt that African American people had thicker skin, less nerve endings, and did not feel pain the same way. And these animals. Are people who are in medical school right now. So these are people who are residents and doctors who are treating people. And I don't know about you guys, but I've actually had the experience of, a doctor telling me, oh, you can take that. You don't need anything. I had a torn meniscus. And because of where it was torn, we decided not to do surgery. And I was hobbling around and I was like, maybe some pain management. I don't like to take opioids, but he was like, oh no, I'm not good. You can take it. I'm God. Like, I barely walking, And then I remember when my ex-wife was having the kids, thank God we had an African-American OB-GYN. Because, if we didn't, we wouldn't have got questions answered. A lot of things would have been different. So it's horrifying.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Well, I will say that just like we were talking about the blacks and the trauma dating way back to slavery, you can parallel that to whites and hatred. You can date that all the way back too. So all of those things are rooted in, a belief system that's been around for a long time. That's just
and because we're talking about sexuality, that's another thing. It's like the myth of the big black buck.
Yeah.
The black woman being loose morally,
right?
And all of this. But
it's not
I'm
true.
Like, okay, if
which is not true. We're actually a lot more.
That is not true.
Yes. Say that again. Will say that again.
If we were slaves and couldn't get married for 400 years. And then you say, okay, act like us now. Slavery's over. I'll give you 12 years to kind of get it together. Oh yeah, we're going to institute a bunch of other laws where we don't have to recognize your marriage. We don't have to recognize this because, we just don't want to. And then you hold us to your morality, which is fake because white folks were marrying each other for land transfers and giving each other, giving wives and daughters for gifts and stuff like that. So let's be real. They were messing around. The prostitution is not a black institution.
Right.
Never is. Right.
Never is.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Don't get me go.
We need.
Well, I mean, prostitution is a human institution. Let's be real about it. Prostitution has been here for as long as humans.
Right.
And women.
Yeah, you got some food. You went and killed that deer.
In the Bible.
Let me get some of that deer. I'll give you some if you give me a piece of that meat.
All right, listen, y'all. We're gonna do this.
Can I ask Ezra a question because he's, I think, the youngest one?
Yes.
Ezra, would you say that, because you're 26, I think?
29.
Oh, 20, okay, close enough.
A few more days.
Happy birthday. Would you say that you've seen okay, so you're 29. Would you say that you've seen a shift in the way that people view sexuality and sex, even within like your young adulthood and now adulthood?
Such a large question. I would say that the expansion of social media and our ability to choose just about every aspect of our lives and swipe left, swipe right. I think that has had a huge impact on what we basically what we see, what is available to us. I think that people are less inclined to make choices. Honestly, people sort of just want to sample, and that's not to like, not trying to speak from a moral soapbox or anything. I just think that people are less inclined to maybe you could say to settle, which that can be a good thing, right? People know that there are options out there. You can self-direct, you can be intentional about what you want. And I don't know, it's hard for me to answer because I feel like I live on the outskirts of a lot of what's going on right now. Because I want to say, like, personally, I feel like things have shifted in a good way, whereas we are allowing people to, like I said, make choices about their lives and be empowered and look at individuals as like entire beings.
Okay.
Mm.
As opposed to like,
beautiful.
I feel like going back a few years or like when I was younger, I think that things were even more shallow. Like we would just like judge people based off of, you know, what they could provide or like, oh, what's your job title or what's this or what's that. But in my world, I feel like we're just so much more understanding of the reality of struggle that everyone has to experience. We're so much more understanding of how prevalent trauma is and what that does to how we show up in the world and like how our experiences have been shaped.
Yeah.
So I think that we are having even deeper conversations like this whole series. So in my world, I feel like things have shifted in a really good way. But generally speaking, I don't know. Like with mainstream media, mainstream culture, it feels like, ooh.
Well, my oldest daughter is 27. So I see her as being much more emotionally present than I was when I was 27.
I would agree with that. That's what I was saying in the past episode.
Yeah. And at 50 something, I can definitely say that a lot of these kids, and anybody under 30 is a kid to me, a lot of these kids are definitely more emotionally mature in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And more centered than we are 30, 20 something years older. Like we're just getting there,
Right. Cool. And that is that's something that I've been thinking about sitting here. And I think that, Will, you were saying something about the therapist asking you, like she was confused about why you were offering grace to your parents.
Right.
And that's something that,
Right.
I believe it.
But she didn't want, she was like, what's your, I was like, my dad was a great guy. And then, did he cry with you? Did he do this? Right. Was he emotionally real? I was like, excuse me? Do you understand?
Yeah. Like that, the vocabulary wasn't even there for that.
Right. Like West Memphis, Arkansas is from, do you understand what that was? In the 20s? Yeah. What is wrong with you?
It's like a balancing act. I think just being aware of where we as a people come from and where even the generation before you came from and how these conversations are evolving now, I think it's so delicate, it's so nuanced. We have at least from my standpoint, in my own personal life, like I've had to practice so much grace where in times where like I just want to be angry, like and just throw the blame out there. You just have to understand there's like a much larger narrative going on. So it's interesting. And I'm learning a lot also, of course.
That's so wise.
Listening to y'all.
Yeah, so wise.
Because I'm like, forget your narrative. Look,
I was going to say.
He's about to
bump you in your narratives. Take this.
You know what I was going to say? It's one of the greatest opportunities that we have as humans is once we as people that came from the motherland can go through our baggage and help one another understand what's in there and heal. This conversation that involves bringing the races together to understand what has actually happened is going to be something.
It's
But
gonna be something. And you know what?
it's-
And I love that we're starting with us. We need to start this dialogue. We need to have
Well,
these conversations among each other. And then we can bring them in. Like, you know, I know some of them are more open-minded and some of them are still like, what are you talking about? Racism doesn't exist.
That's a whole nother subject.
That's a whole nother. But anyway,
I don't carry water for white people's emotional needs. I don't do that.
Yeah, that's why I'm scratching. I'm kind
You
of
have all the information I do.
That got
That's
me
if you-
itching like
oh yeah,
this
I'll just say
conversation
this.
went in.
yes.
It's
What were you
okay.
saying, John?
Work in
Have
the
a great
morning.
night.
It was
Love
great.
y'all.
Bye. Bye.
Anyway,
Awesome read. Awesome read. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
It's
reading
so great
that.
meeting you,
Thanks for
Harvey.
sharing.
You're gorgeous too. Love your hair.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
See you, Will. See you, Ezra. Good to see you. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody. I'll
night,
be in
guys.
Bye,
touch.
Sandy.
We'll figure out
everybody.
another day. Love you
Okay.
guys.
John, I'll talk to you later this week,
See
okay?
you, Jonathan.
All right. Sounds
job.
good.
See you guys.
All right.
Thank you. Lynn, thank you so much.
Of course.
Lynn, where are you?
I'm here. No problem.
Oh my God. Love you so much. Who's left?
Oh,
Sandy, thanks for stopping by. Tammy's on the adult.